save myself maybe some headaches down the road and to make the thing more trail worthy and more reliable, that's why we're doing these type of things. But also, you know, it's nice and clean. And then the final point with all that I was wanting to make was that when you are installing all of these accessories and you're tearing the suspension apart and you're tearing the tunnel down and tearing the seats out and doing wiring and getting up under the dash and discovering, you know, fuse blocks and where all the wires run and that type of thing, you are becoming very intimate with the details and design of the vehicle, and it is going to pay off in dividends if you are out on the trail and something is not working correctly and you are out in the middle of nowhere. It might be something that you're like, you know, you basically say, hey, I know pretty much what's going on here, and you'll at least be able to get to it. You'll be able to disassemble the car, you'll be able to put it back together. Maybe, hopefully, if you have the right parts or the right tools, you'll be able to do a trailside repair. So, all right, well, I've kind of dragged on about all of that, but hopefully that was some good information for you. And I will definitely get started on this and let you know of any details along the way that maybe you'd be interested in knowing about. So I promised that I would show you how the Pro Eagle jack is working out, and this is the 3-ton version, the Kratos. It's the biggest one that they make that I know of, and I wanted to share with you basically how it is going as far as lifting it up. And this thing looks crazy. It did a nice job though. I had to lift it in 2 different stages though. I couldn't get the biggest extension underneath there, and I still don't even have it extended as far as that will go. So I'll kind of give you a little bit of a view, but it takes quite a bit to get these 35s off the ground, and the right side is not off the ground as far as the left side. So I did use some jack stands up front. They're extended pretty more than I would like them to be, and I do need to come down and see if I can once I get these tires off, kind of rest it down onto those jack stands softly, so that if it was to fall off the jack, it wouldn't come down hard and maybe kick those jack stands out. So, but pretty impressed. Definitely this would have been a serious task to lift this thing up to get those tires off the ground, and I know that the future will hold quite a bit of maintenance probably for this thing. So I think the investment, even though it's not cheap, I think the investment is definitely going to be worth the while, as far as just the ability to lift it up and not be frustrated with the multiple steps to crib and lift and crib and that type of thing, or may not even been able to get it up completely. So just shows kind of how big this thing is, and those shocks are just massive as they go up in there, and you really don't even realize how massive they are until you see them at full droop. So yeah, pretty impressive. So all right, moving on. So here is the products installed on the side-by-side, and I think the result is a very good one. Was not difficult, I guess, overall, but I will say that having an extra hand is pretty much something that you're going to want to plan on doing. I did it by myself. It can be done, and I will say that part of maybe the difficulty was the fact that I was putting the Assault Industries brackets on the outside. So let's talk about real quick, not the process of putting it together, because you're going to need to research that, and there's plenty of good videos out there as far as how to install these products. But let's just start here at the top and talk about each one of them individually. So the fitment wasn't the best on the Lonestar bumper, but I still would recommend it. And let me go ahead and just say that all the products that I had bought and purchased for the rear end of this, I can recommend at this point in time. Obviously something might change down the road. You might see a review video for something that specifically didn't live up to its expectations, but as far as I'm concerned, everything has been pretty much perfect as far as these products back here. So Lonestar rear bumper, definitely not as heavy as you can find, but heavy is meaning the word heavy, and it does come with an additional weight. So this is, you know, kind of, I would say the minimum, you know, for something that you're going to want to buy for a rear bumper. Not very heavy, kind of the point. It's not so I can bump up against things. It's so that basically if I'm coming off of a drop down obstacle, that you know, I won't ruin my muffler or the plastics, that type of thing. So or if somebody does kind of bump into the back of me, it's going to give me a little bit of protection. So that's good. And so let's move down here. They give you some good hardware. That is the TMW Offroad double shear rear bracket, as discussed before. I will tell you also, while we're talking about this, that now that I've done this project, I can tell you that the Hess Motorsports weld-on brackets that allow you to drive bolts from the rear going forward, yeah, that is definitely in my future. So if you maybe watch this video and you have maybe the time and the budget to buy those and do that from the get-go, I would do that. I would literally just go ahead and make that part of your rear suspension strengthening strategy. But this definitely gives you a double shear you know, setup. That will be really strong when I get that put on there. I'll still utilize this double shear bracket here in the back, the radius rod bracket. And you know, the bumper gives it a little bit of strength too, but not a whole bunch. So we still have the OEM radius rods on here, the middle one and also the top one, but the lower one has been replaced by the CT Raceworx billet high clearance radius rods, and man, they're super nice, super nice, priced, you know, reasonably. The joints on them, the little spacers they include, I mean, just everything about them, you know, definitely met my expectations when it comes to those. So highly recommend those. The one thing I would like to see, I mean, they also have, you know, a really nice touch on the back side of these that you don't see, but you can see them when you're installing them, is that they, you know, they say made in the USA right there engraved on the back. I would like for them to maybe one additional engraving would be for them to mark right and left, and that doesn't seem like it's something that I should have had to have, but being new to this, it was a little bit, you know, confusing, and they don't come with instructions. So there probably may have been a resource online I could have checked out to kind of, but they're very similar. That's, you know, it's just a little bit of a different angle, a little different length. So after a little bit of looking, I finally figured it out, but maybe engrave right and left on each one of them, so that way you know, the customer will just have an easier time installing them. That'd be my only suggestion there. And then something that you can't really see too well, but I kind of make it out, but in here is that Assault Industries bracket that allows for just some reinforcement. It kind of double shear, it keeps the bolt from wallering out the aluminum hub. So that is something that is worth doing from the get-go, so that way you don't have to buy a new hub, because they do say if you have excessive slop that oh well, you know, too bad, you're gonna have to buy a new hub before you even think about installing this. So they kind of tell you that, you know, that it's not going to fix any of the slop that may have occurred because of the poor design, but it definitely is going to prevent it from happening in the first place. So I will say, you know, definitely get you a 12-point socket set to use on this bolt that they provide. They give you some new hardware, so definitely invest in that. You may not have a 12-point socket lying around that fits that. I don't know the size of it, so I do apologize. I think it's a standard size though. I think it might have been 1/2 inch, so don't take my word for that. I think it was maybe 1/2 inch. So, you know, definitely something to consider there. And then the jack worked really good. I wouldn't have been able to do it nearly as easily without that jack. So it so far has proven to be a good purchase. So yeah, alrighty. Well, you know, I had promised this to be part of like the next video in a previous video, so here it is, and we'll get this published. The next thing that we're going to be doing is reinstalling the tunnel in the middle of the car and starting to install the electric accessories, the fuse panel, and also the cutoff switch there in the back in the center console, and that's going to allow me to hook up here in the back, since we're here in the back, a lit license plate mount. And you might be thinking, well, why do you got to do that? Well, it needs to be lit if you do plan on riding on streets there in either Moab or even like I'm not sure if West Virginia requires it. It is required in Utah though for a lit license plate. So you know, that's something to consider. And then, you know, I still plan on and that's going to be a discussion in the future for the videos, is making this street legal here in Central Ohio. So we'll see how that goes. There's definitely a pathway to make that happen, and so that is one of the things, that the license plates has to be lit just like a vehicle would have to have a lit license plate. So we'll wire that immediately and run the wires to that, and then also we'll immediately go ahead and hook up our SMB particle separator fan down to our accessory fuse box. And so I'll be showing you how I put that accessory fuse box in and put a relay to it. So I think I'm doing it right. It's been a brainstorming operation for quite some time, for over the last 3 or 4 weeks, about how I wanted to do it, and I've actually probably revised it about 7 different times. So I think I'm doing it right, and I think you'll appreciate the strategy that I go about doing it, and might find some value in that video. So that will be the next one. All right, everybody, thank you very much for watching. Take care. Make sure to hit that subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you can see any of our videos that come to you future, and you'll be notified to see those. All right, take care. Be safe.